All right, guys, for this first exercise in this unit, we're going to be creating a set of mouth positions known as phonemes to be used on the lip syncing project in this unit. To do this, I'm giving you a set of pictures that shows the different positions of the mouth. Now, this is really meant to be kind of as a guideline. However you want to draw your mouth, whether it wants to be more cartoonish or realistic, I'll leave it up to you. But keep this as a starting point. Several of these you can exaggerate the lips, the teeth, and especially the tongue position in order to really emphasize how the mouth is moving. You can also look up several of these online to get other references, and these aren't the only kind of phoneme positions, but these are the most common ones, and these will be the most helpful for the project that we have. So to get started, download the Lip Positions folder and locate the blank face animate file. When you open up this file, I'm going to zoom out so we can see the whole thing. Here's how I've got it set up. First off, if you check out the timeline, notice that there's two different layers. The blank body layer is going to have all the information on it, and we're going to be working in the mouth shapes layer. On this layer is where we're going to create a new object, and we're going to create a series of different shapes for that mouth object. On the stage, you can see how I've set up a blank body, and this is where we're going to draw the mouth, and I've got these beside me as my reference to draw these. Before you get started, one thing I would suggest you do is practice saying each one of these and getting an idea for how your mouth is actually forming each of these vowels and syllables and saying each of the words. Because keep in mind, it's just a starting point. So if your mouth is at rest, this would be kind of a good resting position. If it's saying ah or eh or that's the position for this. The f and the v has the lip curled under. One thing about this particular picture is that the F and the V doesn't really show that lip curling under. It just shows the lip touching the top of the teeth. But then again, that could be one way of saying it. There's a difference between an O sound and an oo sound, and so both of those could be interpreted differently. Take some time to practice saying these and getting an understanding, and when you're ready, we're going to jump in and create the illustrations on top of our mouth shapes. Now the first thing we want to do is I'm going to zoom in so that I can see the work area that I have, and if necessary you may need to reposition some of your palettes so that you can see both sides. Let me zoom out just a little bit more. So yeah, that'll be good enough for what we're doing. Actually, I'm going to go to Show All. The tool that we're primarily going to be using to paint these is just the regular brush tool. With the brush tool, we can go into our brush properties, and we're going to vary the size of it depending on how much room we need to fill in. One thing I will point out is with your brush tool, you can change up the shape of the brush. Rather than working just in a solid circle, you can have it be more of an elongated or straight up and down or side to side, or you can make it more of a hatched kind of mark. In my case, I actually kind of like it having a little bit of an angle to it. So if you ever want to fully customize it, you can click on the Add Custom Brush, and this will allow you to change the nib, the angle, and the flatness of it however you want. So in my case, I'm going to flatten mine out just a bit, and maybe I'm going to set it up at an angle just slightly. This will give me some thicker and thinner lines as I paint, and we'll say okay to that. Again, we're going to be changing the size of this, so there's no one set size to start with, but I will tell you a good keyboard shortcut to know is the open and close bracket keys. If you do the open bracket key, these are located next to the P on your keyboard. This will make it larger. And if I hit the close bracket key next to the P, it'll make it shorter. So both of these are what you're going to see as far as me making them larger and smaller. The final thing we're going to do is make sure you have object drawing mode turned off. This means when you start to paint and you select it, you should be seeing the little dot pattern and do not see a blue line around it. I can delete that away, and we're only going to be working with a fill color. Now the fill color is going to be determined based on what we paint, and there's really three things we need to pay attention to. You're going to have a lip structure, you're going to have teeth, and then you're going to have a tongue to be able to paint. Now if you want, you can add highlights and shadows, you can add outlines to your lips, whatever details that you want to from this. For this particular exercise, I'm going to cover just the basics of forming the lips. I'll leave it up to you whatever other details or however cartoonish or realistic you want it to be. Now the first thing I'll do is open up my swatches panel and save up the swatches of color that I want to work in. If you don't see your swatches, you can always go to Window and down to Swatches and open it up. The three primary colors that I need to have will be a red color for the lips, and so I'll choose a good nice medium red and click on the Create New Swatch to add it to the bottom of your swatches panel. I also need to have a tooth color. In my case, I'll just keep it a solid white and add it to there. And then finally, I need a darker color for my tongue that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a darker red, this one up here. As long as there's a good contrast between those three, that will work out. Now, if you want, you can also have maybe an outline color or something else that you could add. If you need to add any details, again, highlights and shadows, however you want to design your lips, I'll leave it up to you. For this exercise, I'm going to keep it relatively simple for each of the drawings. Now let's jump in and look at each of the different positions of the mouth. When we look at the rest position, you can see that all it's doing is having the lips go closed together and straight across. Now, since these are female lips, the upper and lower lip is very pronounced. If you had male lips, it would be a little less pronounced. So maybe you would have just a little indication of the upper lip and the lower lip as well. With my paintbrush tool, one other thing to pay attention to is making sure you're working in either normal paint mode or paint inside mode. I'm going to make sure normal paint mode is selected. And again, this was at the bottom of my toolbox to find that. And going over to my figure, whoops, oh, come on. We're just going to paint straight across for his lip position. Now automatically I see I've got the wrong color selected. So let me go back up here and choose my lighter red. Let's try that one again. Painting straight across, that'll give him my closed lip position. And then finally, I'm going to paint a little bit on top of it to indicate the upper lip. And then maybe a little bit below to paint the lower lip. Take your time in painting it. Just anything that indicates kind of a closed mouth, that will work out well for this. That's always a good starting point for my resting position. Now we need to take this and start adding on the other ones. To do this, I'm going to select the mouth that I created. So get your black arrow selection tool, highlight that area, and then we're going to do F8 or go up to Modify and Convert to Symbol. And the type of symbol we're going to name this is going to be our mouth positions. We need to make sure that this type of symbol is a graphic symbol. We'll say OK to that. Now when I do this, it will add a blue bounding box around it. So we're going to double click on this. And this will go into that mouth isolation mode. So now we're only working in the mouth positions. Here's the magic trick of working with this particular design. We're going to create a different position inside of every keyframe within this symbol. So to do this, first I'm going to go up to my timeline and I'm going to scale my timeline out so I can see it a little bit more. This will make it a little bit easier to click on and see what position is what. So in this first keyframe, this frame right here, I've got a mouth position of just a resting flat mouth design. With that done, I'm going to select the second keyframe and let's insert a new keyframe. With the new keyframe selected, I'm going to delete away the mouth position that I created, delete it, and now let's draw off our second mouth position. So for the second position, the the cheeks are spread wide apart. The mouth is fully open and you can see some of the top teeth. You can see exposure of the tongue, not too much of the bottom teeth. If you could see more of the bottom teeth, that becomes more of an A sound. We want more of an kind of sound. So when I draw this, I'm going to have the mouth a little bit wider, more open, and we're going to add teeth and a bit of the tongue to that position. So zooming back down into here, make sure we grab our paintbrush tool. Again, open, wider mouth, and you can make it determine how wide you want it to be. Go back and clean it up. That looks good. To draw off the teeth, I want to paint some white inside of that red area. So this is where I can return to my tool options. Let's choose Paint Inside. With Paint Inside selected, I can go back up to my swatches. My teeth color are going to be white. And then I'm going to carefully click inside of this area and paint. And if I paint outside of my mouth area, when I let go, you can see how it clips and stays inside of that area. So now it's nice and wide. And if I wanted to indicate a little bit of the tongue, again, I can go back up to my swatches. I'll choose my darker tongue color and then paint on the inside of this by clicking on the inside and just kind of give an indication of the tongue area for there. So there's the ah sound. With that done, let's do another phoneme. Return to your timeline, select the third. We're going to insert a keyframe here. You can do F6. With that new one done, we'll delete away that phoneme and let's focus on the F. So for the F or the V sound, this is your mouth is open, the cheeks are spread almost as wide as the A sound, but the lower lip is touching the top of your teeth. And so it's actually, some people will tuck it under prominently underneath their teeth. So if I was to draw this one, we'll go back up to my paintbrush, make sure we choose the red. We'll start off by giving it a little bit of a curve to the top there. That looks good, maybe a little bit more. Do remember, if you need to add on to it, we need to go back to paint normal mode. And there's that. Let's paint in our teeth. So we'll go back and choose white. I'm going to change my mode to Paint Inside. Carefully click on the inside of here. And we definitely want the teeth to be a lot more prominent. And so it looks like the lower lip is curling under into the teeth that are there. So notice it's a little curve, and that lower lip is touching or almost touching the teeth that are with that. So now we've got an F. Let's do a fourth one. Return to your timeline. Create a new keyframe. In this case, we can hit F6. Delete away your current phoneme. Let's do an O sound, not an oo. So an oo sound has a smaller circle. An O sound has a wide open kind of design. And in this case, I think all we have to do is to choose the lips and oh, almost helps to say it as you're working with it. So O and ooh. Ooh would be a smaller circle for that one. So that's an easy one. Again, we'll return to our timeline, create a new keyframe, delete away what we have here. So for this one, we've got the or the b or the p sounds, just the beginning of those phonemes. Now with this one, the lips are together and the cheeks are spread apart. It almost looks like the resting position. However, they should be much thinner together. They're pursed, ready to make that particular sound. And so whatever you drew for the resting position, make sure that this position is a little bit thinner and drawn together. So if I was to draw this one, first of all, let's make sure my fill color is set to the lip color, and I'm drawing in normal mode. That looks good. We'll zoom in, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller and indicate that line a little bit more. Let's make it a little bit smaller with this one. So there we go. Nice thinner line, and maybe I'll even exaggerate that by making the edges just a bit thinner and tapering down to the middle of my lips for here. So now it's going as if he's munching down on something, type sound. Once you get something you like, I'm satisfied with that. Again, we'll go up here, hit F6 and create a new keyframe. With that new keyframe selected, we'll delete this away. Let's focus on the oo or the qua type sound. Just like with O, it's just a rounded circular of the lips, but this one it's going to be a little bit thinner or smaller. So for this one, we'll make my brush a little bit bigger. Same thing, but it's just a small circle for that one. That's another easy one to do. Again, got that one. create a new keyframe up at the top, delete away. The E sound. The E is kind of like a big old cheese, big smile. So we're seeing lots of teeth fully drawn just like you would with the A, except we're not opening the mouth. We're just seeing full E type sound with this one. So again, make my brush a little bit bigger. We'll go full on smile. That's looking good. We'll draw the teeth inside of it, so I'll choose white for my teeth. And since I'm painting inside of my lips, lipped area, we'll paint inside mode, and we'll want to make sure that E is being painted with that. That's looking pretty good for those. Whoops, too far. Okay, so E type sound. Turn to our timeline and create a new one, F6, delete it away. This is the L or the Th. In this case, it's hard to see it on the picture. You're pulling your lips together so they're not as spread apart as all of the other ones we've been doing. So they're a little bit closer, and the tongue is touching the top of your front teeth, so the L. It's not indicated very well in the picture because their lower lip is covering it up. But in mine, I actually want to show the tongue touching that upper lip or that upper teeth for this one. So again, I'll grab my lip color, change my painting mode back to painting normal. Got my new keyframe selected. La, Th. So we'll draw off more of a higher arc for this one. That's looking pretty good. We'll swap over to white. Paint inside mode. So now that I paint, I'm going to give myself some teeth. And I want to indicate the tongue touching the top of there. So I'll grab my darker color, and then we'll paint the tongue going up to that. So now there's the la, ta, th touching the top of this. I've seen some of these where it actually has the tongue on top of the tooth, so you can actually see that a little bit more. Maybe I want to indicate it, maybe not. I'll keep it like this. But that's looking pretty good for this one. Going to the next one, create a new keyframe, F6, delete away everything that's there. Now for this one, I apologize, I do see a typo that I had on this. It shouldn't be the QWO, it should really be the RSH or the sh or the ch type sound. It does look very similar to the oo or the w or the qu type sound that's up here. The main difference is in order to get the you're dropping the lower lip a little bit more. You're indicating or you're drawing out that particular sound. So if I was to draw this, I would start off maybe with a regular O sound, but elongate the lips out and drop down this a little bit more. Whoa, got a glitch on my keyboard to get that. Let's see, drop this down a little bit more. Now it's really kind of elongating out that sh type sound. Again, very small, just like the oo that we have, but it's pushing out that sh type sound. With that one done, let's do the very last one, and this is the most common one. We'll go through and add another keyframe, delete that away. And this is, of course, the k, duh, g, these guttural type sounds, even the s or the y or the z ending type words. For this one, it's just a full-on smile. In this case, we can see teeth on both the top and the bottom. And so if I was to draw this one out, we'll draw out the full-blown smile for everything, almost a fully open mouth. Really is the most relaxed of the phonemes. And then we'll grab our white. We'll paint inside of this. Since the top teeth are the most prevalent, I'll give those the most room. Uh-oh, did I choose paint behind? I bet I chose paint behind. Paint inside. When you use paint inside, another thing is be sure you're painting in front of or inside of the object that you want to paint inside of first. There we go. And then I'll do just a small indication of teeth below that. Again, make sure you're painting inside of it to get that. And try it one more time. Sometimes it takes multiple passes. That's okay. Yeah. And if necessary to clean this up, we'll go back to paint normal mode, zoom into the area that I want, and paint the area in order to be cleaned up. All right. So with that done, now we've got all different 10 phonemes or mouth positions that we can start to use for our lip syncing. We're not finished yet. In order to use this, we need to be able to label what each one of these frames are. So I'm going to go up to my timeline and return to keyframe number 1. Remember, each one of these has their own individual phoneme. And when you scrub over it, you can actually see what it looks like. And it's kind of cool. It looks like he's talking. But I'm going to select the first keyframe, go to your Properties panel, and locate the label under the Properties. In this will allow you to label and give a name to whatever frame you have selected. In this case, we want to label it whatever the mouth position is. And so since this is the first keyframe, we're going to label this the rest position. Select the second keyframe. For this one, it's going to be the ah, eh, So with that one selected, we're going to do an a, an eh, or an as the label. Third keyframe, this will be the f or the v. So name F or V. Fourth keyframe will be the O keyframe. Fifth keyframe will be the B, the M, or the P. The sixth keyframe will be the Q or the W or the U. Seventh keyframe will be the E or E. The eighth keyframe will be the L or the TH. And remember, for this one, I made a mistake. It should be the R or the sh or the ch sound. And then the final one is the one that's used most often. And this will be the k, the hard K sound, or the kids, the d, the g, the ch, k for the C sounds, the S or the Y or the Z type sounds. So with all of these now labeled, we can start to use them within our lip syncing for both the project or anything else that we're going to be doing for the next set. Remember, for this, you can go back at any time and start to add details and to tweak these mouth positions, paint them up however you want. For this one, I just did it very, very basic. So you can go in, you can find other examples and see how these are done. Or if you want to take it a step farther, you can find other mouth positions and be able to create those. But that's not what I'm looking for this particular exercise. You can do that on your own. Once we're done, we'll return back to scene 1 by clicking on scene 1 here. And let's save up our document. Go to File and save what we have from this. This is what you're going to turn in for the exercise grade. Next week, we're going to take this and place it into our lip syncing project and show you how to match this up with the audio that we have.